Okay, everybody, welcome to episode 3. Wow, yeah, time flies. Episode 3. We had a great week this week on Instagram and getting a lot of questions and comments from everybody about our special guest here today. So without any further ado, I want to introduce you to Shannon Seeley, the next IFBB Pro physique.
Let's not jinx it.
No, listen, we're going to say it. We said earlier today, Robbie and I were talking about, every guest we have on, we're going to be that luck charm for them. So, and I think really, Shannon, I mean, you're kind of knocking on the door anyhow, so it would be an easy dart to throw at this point. So real quick, how's prep going?
It's you know what? I can't complain. I'm not super bitchy. I mean, Don't talk to my husband because he'll disagree, but I feel like I'm a lot more focused and driven. I'm feeling really good about this prep. My body the conditioning this year is completely different than I've ever seen it. So.
Well, it's been a little time off. You had your daughter.
Yeah.
So that all 2020, along with COVID, was a nightmare.
Yeah. So right? 2019 I had my daughter, and then 2020 was the dragged longest prep of my life. 9 months of 9 months of prep.
Yeah.
And then wasn't the best prep. Then my off season switched coaches, and then had a solid off season with this new coach, and then started prep with him probably early February. So it's been going well.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, this is probably just something that you've been just itching at getting to. And North Americans now are, 2 weeks away?
2.5 weeks away, yep.
So you're dialed right in, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, just my legs. Legs need to come out a little bit more.
Well, it's funny going back and looking at some of your past shots, and we were laughing about it earlier before the show starts. I mean, where you started and where you're at now. I mean, it's not something often when we look at a bodybuilder of your caliber and we go, well, where'd they start? Well, they started as this very muscular, athletic, it was real easy to transition over into bodybuilding. But in all actuality, you were the complete opposite of that. You were a skinny little runner.
I was.
Yeah, and that was your athletic background, am I right?
It was. I mean, I still was muscular at the time, but I mean, I was maybe 120 pounds soaking wet. And now, right. I mean, right now I'm 160. So I mean, like,
yeah,
it's a 40.
A refined 160 anyhow. So let's be clear about that.
Yes.
You're 190 walking around any other time. So yeah, when I was looking at your old pictures, and I had mentioned to you before when it showed that picture of you at your very first contest, so now, I guess that one was probably 2019 that you did the comparison, or 18.
Something like that.
It was within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Amazing transformation. I was telling Shannon that I had to zoom into the picture 3 or 4 times even to make sure it was actually her I was looking at on the left-hand side. So if you get a chance, get to Shannon's Instagram, which I'm sure so many of you have already. Doesn't hide a thing. She is very transparent about everything she does, and her pictures are just awesome. I think the ab picture that we got, how often do people just comment on that picture, honestly?
All the time. When I first posted it, and I think that was in 2018, was that epic ab picture. It went so viral, and I got so much love, but so much hate, because some people were just like it was photoshopped, or this is not a female body. Like, I mean, it was just, people were just in awe of it. So
I think I told you when I looked at it, I thought it was like science fiction. Yeah. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
And if you want, I saw a post that you did. Somebody had asked how many abs you actually had. I counted. You have 10. It's not 8 or 6. It's 10. But really, about that picture, the most that I thought was just like obnoxious were your obliques.
Yeah.
The way they dug in. And you said that you only work your abs out like once a year.
Yeah, once a year. And right now, it's just all doing vacuums to just kind of taper that down.
How do you think that works on your ab development when you're doing those vacuums all the time?
It's just definitely helped cinch it a little bit more, make it a little bit tighter. It was just, I mean, if you look at the past pictures, you see it was a little bit more blocky, especially with the amount of weight that I was lifting. And so just the vacuums have really helped pull it together a lot.
And you've gotten that comment in the past about your physique. I mean, second place at Junior USAs and third place at Junior USAs. And there's not an awful lot to complain about when you're in that top 3 conversation, but that's what you were hearing.
Yeah.
So going into this one, you've addressed that.
Yeah. Yep.
So everything's looking pretty good.
Yeah, they also said my back definition needed to be brought up a little bit. Yeah, so
surprising.
And that's the whole thing with bodybuilding. So it depends on the judges. Every show, there's just a handful of head judges, but you have this whole panel of judges that, if you're having a good day and they like your look, they're gonna they're gonna award you. If you have a bad day, you're screwed. So, it's so hard.
So you don't feel like from show to show, and a lot of people, this is a big question that's often asked to a lot of. From a lot of people that don't compete. I mean, we talk about politics and bodybuilding. That's been something I think has been gotten over a little bit, right? but certainly you carry the last show with you around wherever you go. Do you feel like that?
Oh, absolutely. You think of all the things that you did wrong or all the things that could have been done differently. I mean, let's be honest. Everyone wants first place when you're on a national level stage. It's there's no exception. I think I can speak on behalf of all competitors. If you're not first place, you lost. That is how it is. You work so hard. You're doing this prep. It's brutal, and when you to get nothing less than, if you don't get first, it's very disheartening. And so you think of all the stuff that you could have done differently to just kind of,
Do you feel like as a competitor, when you walk into a show and you're carrying around that last scorecard with you, do you think the judges are doing the same? Or is that, you hear, well, they're not supposed to. They're supposed to look at you fresh every time, right? They're looking at a canvas again right in front of them and to be able to critique you accurately. But do you feel like as a competitor, you're carrying that
Oh,
with you?
yeah, absolutely. Even for my last show, when I got the feedback, even the head judges said, hey, I've watched you progress in this sport since 2015. This was not your best look. You're lying,
Okay.
So they did use that as a comparison, which, I understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, I wish they would have just said, hey, clean slate, do this, this, and this. But when
Gotcha.
you're comparing about my previous physiques, I'm just like, okay, like they've been watching what my physique's been doing for development. So
Yeah. Well, I guess so. The truth is, with all classes of bodybuilding, both male and female, I mean, you earn your pedigree to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you finally get there, it's very rare that you hear or see. Well, and we just talked about it. This will be the third week in a row. Hunter Henderson.
Yeah.
That's unusual. I mean, you
It
generally
very is.
don't see that happening. And if it happens, it's pretty special.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that was a phenomenal. I mean, I think everyone knew the minute that she announced she was going to compete, and you look at her physique, you knew just having that base from powerlifting and having all those muscles. I mean, I would think if you had 80% of these powerlifters that are, ranked so high, and they decided to do a bodybuilding cut, they would look insane.
Yeah,
They would throw all of us bodybuilders in for like a run, because you guys all have that dense, solid base physique.
We had this conversation on our last podcast, about all these crossover athletes anymore, especially powerlifters going into bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
You're a super strong woman. I mean, you're squatting 415 for 405 for reps, I think I saw. Where's your bench press at these days?
Right now, because I'm in prep, it's about 225. But even my off season, it's about
Robbie,
315.
It's a measly 225.
315, really.
Yeah.
So you're the perfect example of what I was talking about. I know bodybuilders generally stay in their lane, and rightfully so. You should, right?
Yeah.
So you achieve that status that you're looking for, or that result you're looking for. But boy, wouldn't that be fun? I mean, you're one of many that I would think would just be so much fun to watch get into powerlifting. And again, watching these powerlifters get into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I love that conversation we had last week, because it really sort of shed the light on the direction of really lifting sports in general.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you've been doing this a long time. Did you notice back in the day when you started that there was this tribalism with bodybuilders and powerlifters and strongmen? And I mean, I know you work at a gym, you're a personal trainer. I mean, how do you take all those different clients on to some degree? Or
I
are you
do.
sticking with
I think when I first started bodybuilding, I don't even think powerlifting was really the factor that we always use. CrossFit was always the big. When I first started, CrossFit was the huge thing. Was like, like I used to get asked all the time, "Are you a CrossFitter?" I'm like, no, like that was just like that's. I mean, if you're a bodybuilder and someone asks you a CrossFitter, it's just like, no, do I look like a CrossFitter? Because they're just such different. They're just such a different physiques.
There it is. Third show in, and we're bagging on
back on
CrossFit.
CrossFit again? Damn it.
But
you find yourself actually training a lot with the power. I mean, nowadays with power, and you're talking about these different training philosophies, right? With all the sports, they're kind of the same, really.
They really are. I think the number one thing I always tell people to remember, though, is, and I'm seeing that, and the bodybuilding industry is starting to get flooded with a lot of younger people. I see 18, 19 years, I want to be a pro.
Yeah.
That's great and all. I always tell people, remember that it's not impressive if you're 18-year-olds and you're benching 300 pounds with shit-ass form. We have to make sure that, the form is there. And that's the number one thing I'm seeing all these people, well, I can shrug 600 pounds. What is that going to do for you? It's just the form. People negate the form, and the form is so crucial to the building of the tendons and strengthening everything. And when you get these people that are just trying to get big fast, so they're starting to train sloppy, and they're just trying to...
Yeah, it's an epidemic, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you see it, and especially now, since there's this race to get big, or this race to be like a pro, or this race to be this physique that you've always dreamed of, and now you're just sort of it's pill here, add this here, and try
Yes,
to get instant
and
results.
people don't understand, like, it's, I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years now. 10 years. Like, people understand it is a process, especially if you want to do it the healthy way. You know, if you're going to do it the healthy way, you have to make sure that you're eating quality food. Most people try to just supplement everything to get big, and the best way to get big is just to eat quality food over everything. And that's going to be the number one thing that's just going to help you and preserve the longevity of your health. I always say that's the number one thing too, is people they want to jump on all these compounds, and you have to see what your body's capable of doing with just a wholesome diet and a solid ass training plan.
Yeah, and that'd be the first place to start. For
Yeah,
everybody.
you have to, for anybody, any sport that you want to do, because you have no idea. You could have crazy ass genetics, and I could put you on a diet, and you could shred up and be like, all right, you don't need anything,
Right.
you know?
I think that what you hear a lot of now in all the lifting sports is less is better, right?
It is.
So
It
if
is.
you can get away with doing less for better results, that doesn't take away from hard work and work
Absolutely
ethic,
not.
But it comes with, like you said, PEDs and things.
Yeah,
like that
you
too.
need to. You're overall. I always tell people the stage, the meets are always going to be there, but the longevity of your health. You're not going to be a powerlifter when you're 80 years old, but are you going to be able to sustain and live to 80 based on what you've been doing currently for your health?
And beyond that, I think that's why we've seen, like, if in any sport recently in the last probably 5 years for sure, an increase in injury, right? Like, I mean, strongman this year, World's Strongest Man was riddled with people getting injured. And it's because I think we have a lot of these young kids coming up, like you said, not necessarily getting the best information because there's so much out there. That's the one downside we've talked about before about the internet and social media is you can get a lot of information and a lot of it's wrong, right?
Yes.
And then going back to what you were just talking about a little bit ago, talking about form, obviously that leads to musculoskeletal injuries if we're not doing proper form. But beyond that, right, understanding that our biceps usually, our muscles are usually made up of multiple parts, right? The biceps, there's 3 different parts of the biceps, right? And like doing form incorrectly is going to underdevelop things in certain areas, right?
Right.
So like, yeah, you can look strong or whatever, but getting into the training properly for the right sport still makes sense.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And the baseline sport, in my opinion, really kind of is more physique training or bodybuilding. I mean, ultimately, if you're going to start somewhere,
Yeah.
Whether powerlifters and strongmen want to hear that, well, in all actuality, they kind of do start there.
Yeah.
They don't start as powerlifters or strongmen. They start as bodybuilders.
Yeah.
They just don't know it.
Right.
Because it's about repetition. It's about training the muscle. It's about doing the rep correctly. It's about eating correctly. I mean, it's the lifestyle. When we talk about bodybuilding, that's what it was for you when you started, right? It wasn't really about, I'm going to be this pro.
Right. I mean, that's a long-term goal. But I mean, I remember when I did my first show, and I was like, okay, because I did my first show, and I was like, did it to see, DLB, when I first started, DLB was huge. For those who don't know, Dana Lynn Bailey, she's retired from the sport now, but she was kind of my idol when I first started because I was told that I kind of looked like her at that time. I had the short hair, all that stuff. And so that was kind of my goal. And I knew it was going to take time. I knew the sacrifice I was going to have to do to get to that place, but I wanted to see what my body was capable of. But it was just a long-term goal. And I remember sitting down with my coach after my first show and said, do you think I'm capable of going pro? If you don't think I'm capable of going pro, let me know. I'm done with the sport. And I will, I don't want, because, there are those people that love bodybuilding so much, but they just genetically don't have it in them.
Listen, genetics play a big part
They
in
do.
all of this.
They
Like,
do.
I have world famous calves, and I have done nothing for them. Like, unfortunately, for everybody that wants to have nice calves.
We're going to post that on our Instagram.
I will show you
We'll
pictures of these world famous calves.
We'll see them. When you first started, I guess, on your body, well, let me back up. So we talk about origin story a lot here, and I love it, right? Because I think there's a lot of, in your case, a lot of women out there that don't really have the aspirations to turn pro.
Yeah.
But they want to look good, and they want to use you as an example, like, I'm going to go in that direction. Who was it for you? I mean, when you were that little runner, I say little, and I mean that with all due respect, that skinny little runner, let's be clear. What was that moment that you had, that origin story? You're like, you know what, I want to look like that. I mean, at what point do you say, Shannon, I want to have muscle that is just walking the line?
Well, it wasn't really like, it was more of a oh shit moment, I would say more so, is I actually had I was a all-star runner in high school and middle school. I had full rides for 6 different universities for track and field and cross country. In my senior year of high school, I actually got a compound fracture to my leg playing flag football in gym class. So I had this big guy just shatter my leg, and I was in a cast, and it was my senior year. It was like I couldn't run, I couldn't train, and it was when I got out of physical therapy, they put me into the gym because my muscles had really atrophied. And that's what happened. What happened was I started lifting weights, and I saw a girl at the gym, and I was like, oh my gosh, she looks incredible. I was like, what do you do? She's like, oh, I bodybuild. I'm like, you got that from bodybuilding? So then I was like, she's like, oh, well, look up. She's like, you kind of look like DLB. Why don't you look her up? And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So, I started lifting a little bit more in the gym, and then I realized, like, I was one of those genetic freaks that when I started lifting, my muscles actually grew.
Muscles grew.
I was like, so that was it. And then after that, I could not be a nationally ranked runner and a bodybuilder. They unfortunately don't.
That'd be cool.
It would, but yeah, they don't work.
Muscles require a lot of oxygen.
Yeah, so I gave up the running, and I just started going for the bodybuilding.
So who do we thank in that flag football game? I mean, you remember who shattered your leg?
No, I don't remember. It was some guy that did it. I just remember that. But
I mean, that was really a moment of change.
Yeah, it really was.
Wow.
So.
And so as you're kind of and how old were you when that happened?
That was about 16. I was 16 when that happened.
Yeah, okay.
So
you started pretty young still.
Yeah.
I mean, where a lot of us would start when we first started picking up weights, you're not behind the curve at all.
Yeah.
Like, that was when I needed to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I know, so you're 26 now.
I'm gonna be 29 in September.
Well, you look 26.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. 29. Forever 29. Right?
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah.
29,
Yeah. Now you just have anniversaries. You don't have
Yep.
birthdays anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of anniversaries, you and your husband are recently married, right?
We got married in 2018.
18.
Yep.
Okay.
So
yeah, he's an ex-Army guy.
Yep, he's a disabled vet. So
Okay.
he was medically retired in 2017. We moved back here.
And you guys met while he was in the Army. So you were, where was this at? Fort Bragg or something?
He was in Fort Riley, Kansas, and I was here. I was already a bodybuilder at the time. I graduated college and was working in my career. I have a degree in finance, so I started out I was at a finance firm, and I had just started making a name for myself in bodybuilding, and he had messaged me on Instagram. And I play if there's troops that are deployed and they want autographs or anything, I'll always send those. I always, near to my heart for the military and the vets. And so I started talking to him, and at that time I was dating somebody else, and he's like, if you're ever single, I want to take you out. And I was like, all right, good luck, bro, like whatever. And then literally 2 weeks later, me and my ex broke up, and he messaged me on Instagram. He's like, hey, all right, we're going to go out.
So to all you Instagram guys.
No.
I can't go there.
No, listen, here's the thing. This is not an open invitation to message to
No,
random
no.
women saying you want to date them.
Fair
it
enough.
worked one time. Yeah. That's the exception.
And I'll say that was in 2016 this happened. Think of how big the social platforms have grown now. I mean, I don't even look at my DMs anymore because I don't want to see what I'm getting.
And that's one of the questions I was going to ask you actually at some point because I'm married too, and my wife's way out of my league and very good looking, and Joe can attest to that. And she has like 60 followers on Instagram, and her DMs are out of control. Mm-hmm. The things that get said to her, right? Yep. I don't know what's going on, and that's a whole nother topic one day. Yeah. But like, how do you deal with that? Do you literally just ignore your DMs, or like how do you kind of process all that and your husband? And I mean, like that's a lot. Right?
So this is the one thing. When my husband and I first started dating, I was already doing fitness modeling. I was already making a name for myself. So I told him that we could start dating, but he had to understand that there was going to be a lot of attention on me. Okay, and I was like, and he's kind of a jealous guy. So when we first started dating,
us Army guys are.
So when we first started dating, if someone would put like something on my Instagram, like you look like a man, he would be like, oh blah blah blah, like he would just start typing like, and I'm like, listen. At the same time, like I just gotten sponsorships. I was like, come on, man, calm down here. So he doesn't deal with the DMs. He doesn't even like to go on social media that much because it makes him angry 90% of the time, seeing what he says, seeing some of the comments. I mean, if you guys want some comical, look at my Instagram comments for some of the stuff. I just let them flow nowadays.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But no, nowadays what I do is if it's a business inquiry, I usually will just scan through, and usually you can tell if you look at them, and if it's just like, I want a bicep picture. Hey, flex this or show me your feet. It's just block, 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 block.
It's a whole different
It's one of
world
I
out
just
there,
I
yeah.
get so bad, and I get really bad social media anxiety. I get really bad anxiety. I don't do well with negative criticism from people I don't know. So I just can't, especially in prep right now. I'm already a little bit more emotional.
So you shut yourself off.
I just shut myself
Yeah.
off, and I just have to block it out. And if not, I will just stew on this. And it's one of those things is I want people to like me, and that's just my personality. I'm a personal person.
Yeah.
But no one's ever gonna always like me. All right. I mean, I'm a female bodybuilder. I mean, that's a huge stigma.
Yeah,
Like,
and you're on a platform, and a big social platform,
Yeah.
and a lot of visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get everybody.
It
like
is,
you.
but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, I love what I do, and I think I've said this before. Like, I don't do this for anybody else. I do it for me. I could never. I don't want to look like the average female. I don't want someone to be like. I don't want to look like a mom grocery shopping that doesn't look like I work out. I don't aspire to have that physique. I like that muscular physique.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I know on some of the stuff that I was, some of your blogs I was listening to in particular, you have a really big. You want to make it a big part of your life to be as feminine as possible, carrying muscle.
Yes.
And you make that perfectly clear.
Yes.
So there's certain things that you won't do, and there's certain things that you won't even walk the line.
Yep.
So you want to explain that a little bit?
So most people, for some reason, and it is possible to get muscle like my size without taking testosterone. And people, for some reason, don't believe me. All right. I just had my blood panel done. I have low T. All right. I have naturally low testosterone. But when I first started the sport and I did my first show naturally, when I decided I was going to continue, I started researching the compounds and a lot of the androgenics that were going to be offered to me or were going to allow me to take my physique to the next level. And what it is, I went on Amazon. I probably spent $300 on books and looked and read what these compounds did, the pros, the cons, the long-term side effects, everything that I could, because I knew that if I made this commitment, would it potentially put me at risk for never being able to have a family? Would it put me at risk for, long-term side effects or, anything like that? Especially with females, our hormones are so much more sensitive than men. Especially you mess up one thing, it can spiral it down for a long time. And so I just made it clear with all of my coaches that I've ever met, I was like, if you tell me to take testosterone, I will drop you in a heartbeat. That is something that if you're knowledgeable enough and you know enough, you can get me to a level without taking it. Now, I'm not saying that I don't take androgenics. I mean, I have, Anavar, Winstrol, those are androgenic bases, but they are not pure tests. So obviously you're going to have, with test bases, you're going to have a little bit of testosterone in your system.
What about peptides? So
peptides is fairly new to me. I started actually recently doing peptides more within the past 2 or 3 years, just because for those of you who aren't familiar with peptides, and they're more coming onto the market. You hear SARMs, you hear you hear the term PEDs and SARMs, and peptides are a new one, but peptides are naturally occurring in your body. So when you're getting peptides, you're actually just kind of accelerating what you naturally have in your body. So peptides I do use on occasion. Right now I'm not taking any peptides besides BPC 157, which is more of a recovery. So I tore my rotator cuff in October of last year, and I didn't want to give up this prep, so I just started doing sub-Q injections of BPC.
And how do you feel from it?
I feel a lot better. I mean, and now I went through the Safeway, and I can explain this to anyone who you want to reach out to me to obtain like a doctor's prescription for this. But went through a doctor, gave me a script, and it was a 20-day injection right in my shoulder, and it's definitely helps. Obviously, it's not a miracle cure, but it just helped kind of regenerate that tissue and that muscle a little bit faster.
And get you through those moments where you need it the most, like in your prep, not to spoil that for you.
Yep.
Now you're sponsored by Titan HRT, so
I'm sponsored by Transcend HRT
Transcend,
and then
okay.
Titan Nutrition for my
Titan
protein and supplements.
Well, so now let's talk about that for a minute. So Transcendent, right? I mean, they're HRT, and so they do everything for you there, right?
Yep.
They'll give you a chance to give them the thumbs up of how they're helping you out.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me?
So with Transcend, and you see, and most people, HRT is hormone replacement therapy. If you heard of TRT, it's the same thing. HRT is just going to offer you a little bit more variety of medications. And what it does is typically is you would go to these websites, and everything is done telemedically now. So most HRT companies or TRT companies, you're not going to go in person. It's going to be right online. You're going to do everything through you're going to talk to a doctor through the Zoom or whatever you do, and then the phone, and then they're going to make you do a blood panel based on what you want to take. They're going to make you look at your hormones, and then if your hormones align with your goals, and they can give you, they'll prescribe it to you, and then you're just going to take it.
Well, and I think that was kind of the distinction I wanted to make, because I know a lot of guys in particular are always tossing around the acronym TRT.
Yeah.
Right? It's completely different.
Yeah.
The same but different.
It is,
it's
yeah.
a much more deeper dive.
Yes.
into getting your
TRT is
hormones right.
more just like most TRT you'll hear men taking. It's just a testosterone replacement therapy for men with low T. But HRT, Transcend, we do TRT, but there's just so much more along those lines with that. I mean, especially for females going postmenopausal, even females that have low progesterone, low E2, any of that stuff. That is all capable of being fixed with HRT instead of going through your doctor, because a lot of doctors will not prescribe that stuff because they're going to lose money.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Bottom line's always the dollar. You just real quick on that too. And I don't know if we hit it on already, but when your off season's truly an off season.
Yes, it is.
You clean up everything.
I clean up everything. I do not run anything in my off season. I cycle everything off, and then you have to. Most people, you have to, unless you're a man that has low T or a woman that has low T that's slowly cruising. You have to allow those receptors to reset. If you don't, there's just so many long-term effects with your liver, your kidney, your organs, anything like that. And then if you're not getting regular blood work done on top of it, that's the worst. I see so many people too. Oh, I'm running this stuff. I'm running it for 2 years, just cruising. I'm like, well, are you getting blood work? No.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're probably going to try to get blood, and you're going to have to suck it out with a straw. It's not even going to come out.
Or changing oil, man.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this last week, off camera, about just the amount of tragedy you see out there.
Yes.
I'm not talking big name tragedy. These are tragedies that you otherwise wouldn't know about them if they weren't in your own bubble, about these young, and not even always kids, right? I mean, it's these middle-aged people that want to just think that they're 18 again, and they can just disregard all the notions of health when it comes to kind of, because it's so readily available now.
Yeah.
And where you're getting it and who's using it and who's we did mention that actually, who's giving you the advice.
Yeah.
I mean, when you first started out in bodybuilding and knew that you were going to, take things to the next level, or that's essentially what you wanted to do. Have you ever been without a coach?
No.
Okay.
Actually, I take that back. In 2015, when I won Miss Michigan, I did coach myself through that. And I coached myself because I was shopping for a new coach at the time. And then I started working with a coach at the end of 2015.
And who's your coach now?
Right now I'm working with Nelson Jones. He is over on the East Coast. He's phenomenal. He's great. I can't say.
It just takes the thinking out of it too, right?
It does. And people ask that all the time. They're like, well, you're a coach. You're a trainer. You know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. But the problem is what happens is when you are in such a deficit and you are dieting for so long, you're your own worst critic. So you're going to think that you need more of something, or you need, less food or more cardio, all of that to get to the peak. But what happens is when you coach yourself, you play that game where you may be sacrificing your muscle density, or you maybe peak yourself incorrectly. And so it's just easier, especially with the stress that you already have with the entire prep, have someone else do your thinking. You're paying them, and they just think, they write it out, and you don't have to think. You just read a piece of paper, done. And
money well spent, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think that's super invaluable. Same reason I pay a coach for powerlifting.
Yeah.
It's not like that I don't know what to do. I can do the exact same thing. It's just that I come in on Monday and I do the lifts.
Yeah.
I do the percentages, and then I go home. And it doesn't allow me to cheat myself, because sometimes I'm like, man, I'm kind of feeling like shit today.
Yeah.
I don't need to do 8, I'll do 6. Because if I was programming it myself, I'd be like, I programmed it anyways, right? So I'm just going to do 6 or whatever, And then, of course, when we go to meets, I don't do anything. He basically handles all my stuff, right? He brings me all my food and all that stuff. But definitely worth doing if you're thinking about doing it. And then going back real quick, I just want to backtrack real fast because we covered it, and we covered it in our first episode too, going back to HRT and testosterone and all those other compounds. I think the one thing that I want to drive home very, very clearly, and we've hit it a couple times, but I think we've always kind of grazed on it a little bit here, is that really ultimately the reason we all got into fitness was for our health. And at no point should our fitness start to compromise our health.
Right.
And so if we are thinking about going those avenues, like we talked about on our first episode, it doesn't matter what age you are, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, whatever, that we do it the right way. We talk to a doctor. And that's one of the things I liked about Transcend. I actually, because you were coming on, I logged on and I became a new patient with him just to kind of see how the process was. And they, I basically scheduled a call, and they called me that day and spent 20 minutes on the phone with me, asking me my goals, asking me my history, asking me like all that stuff. And then they're gonna have lab work done, and it's gonna be reviewed by a doctor like 4 times a year, and like that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to be smart, and it's so disheartening sometimes because people just read all this stuff on these forums, and then you get people that will throw in these people that are maybe been in the industry for 2 or 3 months just trying to sell their stuff. They'll throw in forums, hey, I use this, and this. You can get it here, and you get these young people going in the sport. And we're like, well, I can afford that. That's so cheap. I'll just get that. And then that's what happens. And then they just ask, they take X, Y, and Z, and then they ask their friends, well, I added this to that, and I stacked that, and I got this big. And it's that, and then it's you have to. There's so many coaches and there's so many people in the industry, but you have to see their knowledge as well, because if they don't have the knowledge, then you're just wasting your money. You're wasting you have to make sure that health, you have something that's accredited and you have the credentials to just take you. Yeah, you need the resume.
Even if you're a new trainer, listen, we can develop that resume by ourselves too. Right?
Yeah.
Putting the time in.
Yes.
Becoming our own billboard.
Yeah. I tell people even when you're looking for a coach, you are shopping for a coach. Do not feel obligated to just, you saw a coach, you feel like you talked to him for an hour and he's not for you, but you don't want to waste his time. No, like you are shopping, you're paying good money for somebody to tell you what to do. Make sure that their goals and your goals line up together.
And that's one of the things that I liked about some of your Instagram stories and things like that too. And just like during your origin story, you said, so I hired a coach and they, and then you spent all this money doing your own research, even though knowing he was going to tell you what to do, because you wanted to make sure, you wanted to check your check, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it, I think. And you've become yourself very knowledgeable on all these compounds. And now, people are turning to you. But ultimately, people have to remember these things really are individualized.
They really are.
I can't run the same test as Joe, and Joe can't, because we all produce different levels of everything.
Yes.
None of us are all the same.
Yeah.
So Joe and I it's just like any fitness program, right? We talk about this when we talk about weight loss. It's like, listen, we can all eat the same diet, train the exact same way, and we're not going to look the same.
Right.
And that's because we're all different. So the only way to do these things is to do them the right way. Period. End of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, put a stamp on that. I don't do testosterone.
Whatever.
Anyhow, talk about your program a little bit, your workout program. Your coach does your diet for you. We know that. How involved is he in your training?
This is actually the first coach I have had where he does my daily training as well. And that was just based on his insights. What was great about it is I already had known Nelson years back, just we met on Instagram. He actually had prepped one of my best friends, and she had been working with him for a long time. So when I was at Junior OSAs, after my show, I actually met him in person because he was there, and I was like, I would really like your help. Just this last prep was just really hard, and so I literally stepped off stage, and he had a post recovery diet for me literally within 6 hours after that show, and I literally started working with him that day I got off stage, and it was just so different because I sent him my stage pictures. He's like, you're lacking this, this, and this. All right, so my new program is insane because I am training legs. Nothing is heavy too. I love squats. This new program, I have not done squats my entire program. I just started doing Smith machine squats at the end just to help bring in my glute tie-ins. Yeah. But other than that, I've just been doing a lot of delts. I have to train delts 3 times a week, deadlifts twice a week, and a lot of hams. And so it's just a lot different, but it's really helped. I mean, I've seen significant growth with my delts and everything. Just been doing this program since September.
What's your split right now?
My split is, so Mondays is, right now it's legs and hams. Tuesdays is chest and delts. Wednesdays is back and hams. Thursdays off. Fridays delts. And then Saturdays is delts and hams. And there's a chest day in there too, I forgot. And then Sundays. Right. But I don't really do chest a lot either. I have 1 or 2 exercises with chest. And it's one of those things you have to be, for bodybuilding, it's a little bit different because you have to make sure that everything's being brought up equally. Right. If you start overtraining a certain body part and then you throw off your symmetry, then it throws off your whole aesthetics and then you have to restart.
Yeah, and I think especially where you're at now, right? You're at that upper echelon of amateur, ready to kind of open that door to pro. You've developed yourself enough to really sort of look at yourself and your coach say, okay, this is the spots we need to work on.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice when you're there, right? Because
Yeah.
you're kind of like going, okay, I can focus in more time and more energy to bring up these spots, as opposed to kind of was when you first started, where, boy, what's the first thing I got to work on? Well, it's everything.
Right.
And then it becomes an issue of maintenance and recovery more. So now you've kind of got that down. Speaking of maintenance and recovery, how does that work for you? I know I'm a big recovery guy. Well, everybody likes to recover.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
That's the fun part
Yeah.
about this. But especially with maintenance, do you get a lot of massages done? Do you get a lot of work done?
So I will say this:
Holistically?
I am a stickler. I always ream all my clients for stretching, and so I will try to stretch. Stretching is so boring to me. I hate stretching, but who likes stretching?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And then I was doing yoga for a little bit, but listen, being a female bodybuilder with a bunch of bendy pretzels, it's not fun. So, I mean, I'm being honest. I give everyone props who can do yoga, but I do not have the flexibility. I think it's just my muscle density. I don't have the time to elongate those muscles, nor do I want to make my muscles elongated. So I do a lot of grafting techniques, so the scraping. I get scraping done. I have Sunday and Thursdays off. So Thursdays I usually will always get a cupping or a scraping session done, and usually it's a 2-hour session. And then Epsom salt baths. I'm really into Epsom salt baths. I do a lot of CBD, and then I smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah, you do know. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, I got to talk to you about that CBD before you go.
Yeah, you're running is the contest still going on that you put on your Instagram?
Yeah. So I still have that CBD. So for those who want to, it's going to be over by the time you guys air this.
Oh,
but
sure.
yeah, but tomorrow is going to be the end of that one.
Right.
So it's a new CBD
I was going
sponsor.
to win it anyways.
Yeah, it's my new CBD sponsor. So
Well, I think I would imagine if we took a survey of bodybuilders and smoking weed, I mean, it probably would be like 9 out of 10.
yeah.
It makes sense, right?
It is,
I mean,
and it's one of those things too. When I tell people are like, "What?" I'm like, my coach knows. I'm like, "Listen, I smoke a bowl every night. I do this, and this. Okay, that's fine. We'll make sure we add it in there." And it's one of those things where like it helps me relax and recover, especially when you're in those last 6 weeks and last. Your insomnia is insane.
Just
Everything
anxiety
hurts.
too, right?
It's just anxiety and like you're
Yeah.
thinking, and then you see someone you're competing against and social media, and you're just like, so like to be able to relax and keep that cortisol level. I'm doing everything, and I don't like to self medicate, so I don't want to take prescriptions like Xanax or anything to drop me down. I want to be able to so it just seems to be the best holistic and safest way for me to
Well, and I think
get the
from an
benefits.
HRT standpoint too, especially that's a part of keeping. Listen, no secret, right? Women deal with a lot more hormones than guys do, especially those that can kind of interrupt their day. Cortisol's a big part of that.
Yeah.
I hear all the time, especially my wife. I've tried to help her as much as I humanly can. It's an enigma, right?
Yeah.
I throw my hands up sometimes. I just don't know how to help you, and I can talk to 100 guys and get them somewhat in the right direction. But the female body, right?
It's insane.
Just nuts.
The cortisol, and for those who aren't familiar with their cortisol levels play a lot of how you can accumulate fat and how you can lose fat.
Yeah.
And especially for females, we naturally have higher cortisol levels. And, anything, stress, anxiety, anything like that will elevate them. And it's so quickly to get them elevated, but it's so hard to bring them down. And so a lot of it, and even my coach is really aware, like I have, high anxiety naturally. So, I'm on astragalus root. I'm on turmeric. I'm on a lot of...
So let's repeat those. So you've got a few things that over the counter that you would recommend.
Yes.
What are they for cortisol?
So L-tyrosine is great to reduce cortisol. Astragalus root. Turmeric is always great before bed. That's just has so many different benefits. Besides with that it helps with reduce your inflammation. But those are the top 3 that I would recommend. On the ashwagandha root too.
Okay.
So anything like that, you can literally, if you, and I hate saying this, but if you go on Google and do supplements to reduce cortisol, those are probably going to be the top 3 that are going to pop up anyway. I mean, they're known. You can get them at any drugstore.
And for the most part, I mean, it's just not one of those maybe it'll work type scenarios. I mean, you're better off to do.
You're better off, and I will say the longer, and like for me is that is, and even though like on my off seasons I'll come off all of my PEDs, I still keep my supplements. I still keep my astragalus root. I still keep my L-tyrosine. I still keep all of that stuff just to kind of keep those hormone balances at bay. It just for me, I feel a little bit better, and obviously the longer that you take something, the more it's going to benefit your body. As a lot of people will get in this great vitamin and supplement routine, and then they'll start taking, I forgot to take it yesterday. Oh, I forgot to take it for a
Doesn't work
week.
like that.
No, you have to take it consistently.
What about, so is segueing over onto, you got
No, we're good. Well, I was,
I'll let you catch up here.
Yeah,
one more question for
Thanks.
you. Yeah, I keep forgetting. Oh, Robbie's behind me. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's okay. I'm just enjoying the
Robbie.
conversation. Yeah.
So segueing to kind of your diet, I know for prep it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much more specific. But,
Yeah.
Your Whole Foods, obviously, right? Everybody falls into that category.
Yeah.
Is there a certain lane that you stay in with things that you would recommend as a woman in bodybuilding? Because I know there's foods that you always hear, right? Stay away from soy, stay away from this, stay away from that. Is there this lane that you try to stay in both off season and prep?
I definitely always will stay away from soy. I'm glad that you brought that up. I just don't like the reaction with soy. Even that's just for most women. Most women, they think soy is just this great thing. They soy protein, all this. I'm like, stay away from soy. Like, no. But no, I mean, my diet doesn't really change too much in my off season. It's just a lot more, and I'm a lot more relaxed. And for those of you who don't know, I have a 2-year-old at home, so she's at that age where she's walking and talking, and so I don't want to be known as that mom that's always dieting. So I definitely, for my off season, I want to make sure that I'm allowing, enjoying stuff with the family. So I'm not that mom that, oh, mom can't do that because she's dieting and all that stuff. So
you eat some goldfish.
So yeah, I do. So I tell people I'm a lot more relaxed on my off seasons. I still cater to my goals, but if I'm baking cookies with my daughter, I'm going to have a cookie with her. You know what I mean? I try to have that happy medium of not binging out. And I have touched base on this before, where my background, like from the age of 9 until even now, I've had bulimia nervosa. So I was diagnosed with bulimia at age 9, and so that, and as well I have to stay pretty solidified into my diet, because I know that if I kind of spiral out of that, it'll just spiral me down and I'll relapse.
Let's talk about that for a second. I'm glad you brought that up, because we were going to.
Mm-hmm.
You go from having an eating disorder like bulimia to eating 6 times a day as being a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about one extreme to the next.
Well,
how did you overcome it?
So I will say this. I consider myself in recovery because I do have relapses. I'm a human. I'm very, very good about my prep season. I'm really, really regimented, but when I do get into the binge eating in the off season, I will have episodes. But I think, and you'll find there's a lot more disordered eating in the sport of bodybuilding than people understand. And a lot of us will use bodybuilding to just kind of try to overcome that. And what I did is, for me personally, being able to allow myself to not restrict carbs and be able to use it as a fuel and function for my body, and not see it as, oh, this is all just going to make me fat, was the huge, huge thing. And what I really did, and it was the hardest transition, I will say, going into the sport of bodybuilding, is I knew, because I was so active in binging and purging before I started bodybuilding, I knew when I started my first bodybuilding diet, I was probably going to get a little bit fat, because I was going to be actively eating 6 times a day. And I did. My weight went up, I think, like 20 or 30 pounds. And then it tapered back down, because once it was fueled out, my metabolism reset, it was fine. And I think that's what steers a lot of people away, is when you're in recovery and you're trying to eat food, you have to understand your body is going to gain weight from eating food, because it has not had that amount of nutrients and food in it for so long. That it's going to store it all.
Sure.
And then you have to keep eating that amount of food and fuel it. And so that way your body's used to it, and then your metabolism's better, and it's good.
Yeah.
I tell people that the best analogy I tell people for food, for eating like a bodybuilder stuff, is your body, like bodybuilder is just like a car. You got a regular maintenance, oil change, routine, fill it up with gas, and it will work fine. But if you start neglecting those little areas, same thing if you start neglecting your meals, all of that stuff, starts to slow down. Same with your metabolism. You're not feeding your body every 2.5 to 3 hours, your body starts to slow down. So that is so crucial. I tell people, anyone that even was just trying to watch what they're eating, biggest advice, just start eating every 2.5 to 3 hours. I don't even care what you eat. Just eat every 2.5 to 3 hours. Just by adding in food, you could be eating garbage. All I don't care. But if you are eating every 2.5 to 3 hours, your body is going to start responding so differently, because that metabolism is going to start getting fed.
That's a profound statement, right? I hear that more and more, and of course I hear it quite a bit nowadays. But it's hard for people to buy into that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially women.
Yeah.
Let's just say
it is. It really
You're going
is.
to tell me to eat 6 times a day and I'm going to lose weight,
Yep.
right? I mean, so like you said, to get over that first thought, like you may not right away is what you're saying.
Yeah, you most
Yeah.
won't. I mean, you won't. I mean, I do a lot of lifestyle coaching, so I have a lot of older women post-menopause. I haven't been able to lose weight, and the first thing is this: what are you eating? How many times a day are you eating? Well, I'm not eating carbs, and I don't eat breakfast, and I do intermittent fasting, and I'll eat the biggest thing at night, and then most Americans have their late night snack binges, which is but when you're eating so frequently, you don't get the snack binges because you're not hungry because you're eating a lot more frequently. So it's a science. I tell people that you hear this all the time, but it is such a science, especially with bodybuilding. Every gram, every ounce, everything is calculated out to a precision. So it will work. Your body is literally like a little experiment. Like you have certain numbers that will get you where you want.
Yeah,
and it's just your catered numbers, and then.
So it comes down to one word, really: dedication to the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
So my question then is, outside the sport of bodybuilding, excuse me, let's just talk about, people in general, but specifically young women, right? That deal with these disorders. I think mentally, like you touched on it, the first thing is kind of viewing food as fuel, right?
Yeah.
I think people that are in lifting sports, that's how we see it. Like this is fuel for our body.
Yeah.
But outside of let's say they're not in a lifting sport, how does that? Did you test that theory? When you were going through recovery, you said you're still in recovery, and I commend you for that. But okay, so you started saying, well, food is fuel for my body, and it helps me fuel my workout, and I can see that happening. Early on, did you have relapses to go, is it really, and how, I feel for people that deal with this issue. I never did, but I could imagine viewing food as the enemy.
Yeah.
Has got to be one of the hardest things to ever get over.
It almost doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's hard because, and it's one of those two people, and especially when I was going through my recovery, I like I said, this was from a young age, so I was in therapy. My parents both went to therapy with me, how they could help and all that stuff. And, even my therapist had said, it's hard. It's one of the hardest addictions to overcome, or just, I wouldn't even say an addiction because it is a disease. If you have that genetic disposition, you're predisposed to have it, and that addiction gene does run in the family. So for people who, are addicted to alcohol or drugs, all right, if you're not around those, you can put them in a box, put it away, you stay away from that. With food, you have to eat to live.
Right.
So it is a whole different level because with you can't get away from food. There's only, you can't just live off shakes for the rest of your life. You have to
Exactly.
eat.
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing is you just have to take it day by day. And then for me, my main thing was, my goal was when I first started bodybuilding, I knew I was going to gain weight. My goal was, I just want to have abs. I just want to have abs. That was my goal. I just wanted to have abs. And
Careful what you wish for.
I know.
But you have the greatest
so
abs ever.
So I will say about 6 to 8 weeks into it, I started seeing lines on my stomach. I was like, shit, it's working. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so that was what clicked for me, is I just stuck it out. I sucked it up. there was a lot of crying through that transition, a lot of miserable, a lot of body dysmorphia, a lot of hating myself. But once I saw that slight little change where I knew that this was working, I was like, okay, I'm going to be okay. And it's going to and it's going to work. And it was fine. And I will say that it helped me so much confidence-wise too, because once I had those abs, I was like, this is it. And like I said, now people that's so gross. You look like a man, you have abs. I don't care. I got what I wanted. I don't care. I got what I wanted. That's all right.
Generally the guy that doesn't work out that says that at all. It has zero appreciation for working.
It goes back to the old adage, right? Those that can do, those that can't teach.
Yeah.
Right? The people that are like, what? That's not impressive, because they can't do it. So I guess going back to that then, would you say, let's say outside of lifting sports, let's say we've come across a young woman who's dealing with this, that maybe for them the key might be just setting themselves that a small simple goal
I would say small simple goals. It's hard because I have worked with quite a few lifestyle clients that are dealing with disordered eating, and unfortunately every circumstance is different. It depends on the level of severity and the level of treatment, so it's not one size fits all. It obviously depends on how much you are willing to work for it too. I mean, I had hit rock bottom to the point where I was like, either I'm going to be in-house in a rehab facility for the next 6 years, or I have to change. And so that was my point. And sometimes unfortunately I have to say, some people have to hit rock bottom to be like, either you're just going to keep wasting food and wasting away and just be miserable with your life, or you're going to be like, listen, you have a whole life out there, and when you're 90 years old, no one's going to remember if you were a size 2 or a size 12. Let's just get on with it, you know.
Did you have a lot of mentors in the sport when you first started going down this bodybuilding path? Were there people that you gravitated to? I know me personally, I can remember. It's still to this day. I'll make the phone calls every night. I got these people that I can fight in. I got these people that even though I know the answer, I just bounce things off of them.
Yeah.
Kind of know, and I think we start with some people and we carry some people with us. I mean, did you remember the people that were in your life at that time when you first started? Did you have that group around you that, I don't want to say support group, but that group?
I
really
had, I did have a little bit of a support group. I started my journey at a Snap Fitness, and when I got into bodybuilding, I switched over to Powerhouse in Lake Orion, Powerhouse Gym, which unfortunately did not make it through COVID. And the owner of that gym was very, very helpful and supportive of my entire journey. He still is, even though he's
Morels, right?
Phil. Yeah.
Phil.
So,
I bought some of his equipment.
Yeah, yeah. But he was a great guy. So he's always been super supportive. I mean, I still keep in touch with him. But other than that, I mean, this was, 17 or 18 years old when I started, and my support system kind of fizzled out. But then once you kind of start competing, and then you meet people in the area, and I know we talked about Janelle. Janelle and I have been in women's physique together for such a long time, and we both during preps will call, check in on each other. Hey, what do I do? I want to binge out on peanut butter.
Was that when Janelle won her pro card for you?
Oh, it was, it's one of those things she's been working so hard for, and I was so proud of her. And North American is a very tough show. I mean, Gary Udit is a very tough judge, and she's been working just as long in the sport as I have, and I was just stoked that she got it.
Was there that moment where you did, damn it, Janelle, I'm next?
She
you
literally.
guys are competitive.
We're competitive.
I know Janelle. And I know now of you. There's no question you guys.
Yeah, we're competitive, but for national level shows, we wouldn't be in the same class because we're different heights.
That's true. Okay.
But no, I think I was just more excited that she got it, and our bodies are, even though we're both physique, we are built completely differently. You look so, and that is what's great about the sport is you can see 6 different physique competitors, and we all look completely different, and that's why it's such a weird sport.
That's why I'll never.
That's why I'll never understand the judging.
That's why I'll never understand that sport, because I've looked at some people and went, yeah, he's definitely winning. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah.
It is subjective. It is subjective.
And that's an interesting thing to talk about too. A little bit is like my sport's very clear. Either I move the weight or I don't.
Yeah.
Strongman's very clear. Either you move the weight or you don't.
Yeah.
So bodybuilding, like from show to show, like you can get. A judge who says, you need to, work on your rear delts, or you need to whatever. This is kind of what we saw. You have a little scorecard, right, that you guys get at the end and kind of gives you those notes, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay. Good, because I have no fucking clue. But okay, so even you work on those things, you go to another show, complete different set of judges, right? So like people can go years in this sport and never get to where they're going because every judge is looking at something different. So how do you deal with that? Like, how do you mentally prepare yourself knowing that, like, yeah, they told me this is what I need to work on, but I have a whole new group of people looking at me?
I will always take the judge's feedback first, because obviously, like, you do play that game where they could be at the next show and say, if you didn't take their criticism into...
Probably at some point they are,
no
question.
Yeah, especially at the higher and higher levels you get, even till Olympia. I mean, there's the same panel of judges there all year. So it's, it's one of those things where you got to play the game. You have to listen to what the judges, if they want your tattoos covered up, you better listen to them and just cover up your tattoos. I mean, it can be little stuff like that where it can make or break you. I mean, my first show, they didn't like my suit color. It can be something as belittling as that. But I tell people bodybuilding is very similar to like a glorified beauty pageant, except instead of just judging based on your makeup and your hair and your suit, you're getting based on your symmetry of your body as well. I mean, we're still doing our little posing routine, all of that stuff.
Yeah, so those are the little things that I guess you really don't think about from a fan perspective when you see a physique on stage. And you're going, okay, well, she's second, she's third, she's first, but okay, what's the difference? It could literally come down to a posing routine.
It could.
Have nothing to do with your physique at all.
Yeah.
You could have literally had the better physique.
Yeah.
And just shit the bed on whatever it was. The color of your didn't go well, your tan wasn't working.
It could even be like, my tan for one of my shows was way too light. It washed out the lights because the sponsor tanning company didn't put a second coat on me. They said, oh, you don't need it. I got marked down for my tan because it wasn't dark enough. I mean, it can be something like as dumb as that. I mean, boy, it's so hard, especially like last year Junior US Days was in Charleston in August. It was so humid. so humid. I think it was like 98% humidity the day of our show, and it was not at a hotel, so everyone had to walk outside from the one venue to the other.
Seeing some of that
And I mean,
footage,
like, I remember just my tan was just dripping, and then they're there touching it up, but like that was too late. My anxiety had hit in. I was just sweating. I had like towels under here, like trying to get my armpits. I'm like right before I go on stage.
Like dark tan streaks down
It was
the
so
side.
bad. I'm just like, I mean, it's just little stuff like that. And then and the thing is too, is your body's under so much stress that one little thing starts spiraling, and this little like cord just starts unraveling, and then it's just like
it goes from like
you have to
110
really learn to control your emotions and all of that stuff, because it's especially like those critical couple hours when you're peaking, because if you mess up your peak, you're
It
screwed.
really does come down to that, doesn't it? I mean, you've got these guys dial it in the day of the show, but if we really want to get serious, it's really that 2 hours.
It really is.
Yeah,
It
a
really
lot
is.
can
I mean,
happen.
prejudging is the essential. You know when you step on prejudging stage if you won or not.
Sure,
you
sure.
know, and it's one of those things. I mean, sometimes there's hit or miss, where sometimes they're so close they'll call it later.
But you're usually talking about fourth or fifth place.
yeah,
and
but
not-
usually
yeah,
when
yeah.
you're first or second, if you're
How
dead center.
deflating can that be, though? Of course, I don't think you've ever been there. If I remember your contest history, you've been winning since you've started for the most part. But how deflating is that? I mean, you put all this time in. I almost think it goes against the idea of the show, right? Because it leaves nothing to really guess except those last 3 spots.
Yeah.
As a competitor, that's got to be so deflating to get that second call out and go, oh boy, it's over.
It is. You know what? I did nationals in 2015. That was my first national show, and I knew I wasn't going to go pro at that show, but I wanted to get my feet wet and see kind of what it was about. And I think I got like 3rd or 4th call outs, like one of those. But I was talking to some of the girls backstage, and one of the girls had gotten second calls, and she goes, oh, I'm kind of glad I didn't want to do my routine.
Really? Well, I guess it's not for everybody.
So I mean,
right?
you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, especially at the end of the day, like if you are not confident in your package, then why are you even there?
Let me ask you, without jinxing you, at some point, I'm more than confident of it. You're going to go pro. There's no question in my mind. You heard it here first. Probably not. You've heard it,
Yeah.
You've heard it everywhere.
We're the first ones.
ones.
Come on.
Let's just look into a crystal ball for a second.
Mm-hmm.
When you get that status, and you will, what do you see yourself doing then? I mean, competitive. I know you want to be on the Olympia stage someday. I read that.
Yeah.
Where else do you see things kind of going? Do you see yourself building a bigger business for yourself? Is that not a part of the plan? I mean, what's a part of that plan moving forward?
I'm going with the flow right
Yeah.
now. I'm going with the flow. It's so hard. I'm one of those I started my online coaching like in 2016, and I was really not advertising, and it's blown up. Like I have so many clients right now, which I'm very blessed with. I'm overloaded with PT clients. So right now I'm just going as it is. I mean, most people don't know this. I first started out in my school studies is for culinary. I love cooking.
Oh, that makes it great.
Wait a minute.
I know,
Hold on.
right?
I gotta interject real quick. This is blowing my mind because you might be the female version of me. Minus, I mean, your physique's way better.
Yeah, it's big.
Way better.
Yeah.
But
There's no
so
doubt.
you have a degree in finance.
Yep.
I have a degree in finance.
Okay.
I was accepted to Le Cordon Bleu Culinary Arts School out of high school, gonna be a chef. We're basically like we're the same.
I didn't
We're the
know
same.
this about
So
you.
I'm
I
as
didn't know this
yeah, I
about
know.
you.
I'm as big as you, and we're the same person. Wow. You heard that here
crazy.
first.
Well, you're too alike then. That's the problem.
But the plan is like later on down the road, I was thinking about opening like a really good restaurant, like one that like after you smoke a big bowl, like food that you would want,
Really?
like food that you
Oh,
would
boy,
want, like
yeah.
the dirty food, not like meal prep
So
crap.
have you
like,
ever heard of the Chiba Hut?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes,
like,
yep,
so like that?
yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Chiba
Yeah, there
is
you
so
go. That's your that would be the complete opposite thing that I would think you would
Yeah.
do. So that's
No,
perfect.
but you know, like I say, like I think that everyone, like I'm one of those. I started on finance, and I got my, I have my bachelor's in nutrition, so that's where I've been right now. But I'm like one of those, like I mentioned I'm very ADD. I will still always love bodybuilding, and I probably will keep going until my body won't allow it. But my passions will probably keep, with my different things that I like to do. I'm gonna just keep moving around and seeing.
And if I'm right, I think I saw on your Instagram at some point maybe you talked about at some point maybe wanting more children.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That is still the plan too. My husband and I are talking. I'm okay with one. But
Sure.
He's a stay-at-home dad, and I think he would like another one.
Okay.
And so that's a huge thing too, and a huge commitment for me to have to take that time.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to be down for 9 months to
Yeah.
12 months, getting pregnant.
I would love to. Well, listen, I don't want to end it here because I have a couple more questions, but I would love to do an interview with you and your husband. because that's a perspective that you generally don't get, and I'd love to see how candid.
So
he
I've
would
tried
be.
to find him on Instagram. Is he on Instagram?
He's
I
on
saw you
Instagram. He's
once,
on
yeah.
Instagram.
What
Actually,
is it? Tell everybody what it is.
Oh, you're gonna put her on the spot like
Well,
that?
I saw it all
I don't
over the
even
post.
remember his. It's like Casey Bax something,
Okay.
but his is private. He's
Okay.
Oh, it is?
yeah,
Okay.
his is private. He doesn't like to. I mean, he probably has like 6,000 follow requests. He just doesn't because he just posts a lot of pictures of my daughter. We don't post a lot of
Oh,
keep the family.
So,
Well, you
yeah.
mentioned he was a bodybuilder. So
Yeah,
I didn't
he
know.
competed once. He's a big guy. He loves to train heavy and stuff. He did one show in 2018. He did one show. He did it to see what it was
I saw
like.
that.
Yeah, and he did decent. I think he placed second. So he didn't do
Yeah, I saw
bad.
pics. He looks good. Yeah.
But I mean, for him, he was 250 and he went all the way down to 191. I mean, that's almost close to my off-season weight. When my man gets a little bit close in weight with me, I'm like, all right, we're done here.
Good. I'm
Like,
glad we agreed.
No,
Yeah.
listen, I wasn't gonna say that, but I'm like, under 200.
No, and
No,
but I mean, he feels the same way. Like he's just like he likes to be bigger, he likes to be strong, and he's huge, but he takes care of himself. So, and he's happy with that. The dieting is not for everybody. It really is not.
There's a reason I'll never do.
Well, I commend the fact that he did it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and
what I'm
he did it more so he understood
what you were going
what
through.
I was
Sure.
going through because I love him very much, but every prep I threaten him with divorce.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. It's one of those things, and I try not to let the emotions get the best of me, and he doesn't. He's such a sweetheart. He's just like, yeah, whatever. And he knew going into this, and like I said, like he knew that I was a bodybuilder before doing this, and I told him my goals are to be pro and go on the Olympia stage. Either you're with me or not. So that
Good.
means that probably 6 to 7 to 8 months out of the year, you're going to be almost like a single parent.
Good.
He's like, whatever you need to do. So I could
Sounds
never.
like a pretty great guy.
He really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a lot of spouses that would do
Yeah,
that.
we're not a relationship podcast, but I think that's the key to relationships. Like
We might have to
before
become
before you get into them, like, look, this is who I am. This is what I'm gonna do. Either you're along for the ride or you're not.
Yeah,
And you gotta
'cause
be honest with yourself with that, especially going into a sport like yours that
Yeah.
requires so much commitment. Like either you're along for this ride or you're not, and that's okay. But this is a ride,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
like, yeah, so that's amazing.
My
And-
wife is laughing at you right now, I'm sure, for saying that, hey, we are not a relationship podcast. And she's thinking to herself, oh, fuck no, he would never be good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could do one because here's the
I
thing.
think we're all a little messed up in this
Well,
lifting
here's the-
game. That's all I
We've
can
talked
say.
about this multiple times, you and I privately. Like, I know everything about everything.
Yeah,
so
you
I
do.
could do a relationship podcast. If anybody out there needs a producer for one, just let me know. Just kidding. I don't have time for that crap. So yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing that you did that, and and I mean, threatening him with divorce, that's just normal. I think
It's
that's
normal.
completely
I mean,
normal.
it's normal. I feel so bad every time, literally after my prep, I'll be like, all right, we're going on vacation. Where are we
I'm
going?
so
Where do you want to
sorry.
eat?
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever you need. What do you want? You want a gift? You want a Star Wars? You want to start
I
like
think
whatever
that's-
you want.
I think that's amazing that he went and did that, so he knew,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
said, so
for
he
sure.
knew kind of
Yeah,
what you were dealing with.
yeah.
Because there's no way you can wrap your. I can from the outside appreciate your guys' misery, but there's no way you could really wrap your head around what's going on. Because when we start getting into caloric deficits like that, and like our bodies, like it's not just an emotion. Like we break down.
You can't. I have to leave. Like right now, because I'm 2.5 weeks out, I have sticky notes everywhere. Because if not, I will forget everything. Especially because I'm so low fats and I'm getting all my fats from fish oil. So, fats are huge and essential for brain function.
Yeah.
And so when you're really low on fats, you have to make sure that, you're driving carefully,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Like
Yeah,
you're making sure that you're putting correct amounts of money in and all that stuff because it gets really bad. People don't understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So,
saying. There's no way you could possibly
yeah.
know that. I mean, we can know that, essential fats are essential to brain function for sure. We know that for sure. But what does that actually look like? It's like when I was in the military and you said he was in the Army, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't realize what sleep deprivation really
Yeah.
does to you until you don't sleep.
Yeah.
And like, when I mean we see things.
Yep.
Like that's something that unless you experience it, you'll never understand. Same thing with bodybuilding. Unless you kind of go through that misery, we can always go, I understand, Dave, but we
It's
don't.
a certain sign of self-inflicted punishment that it's certifiable, I think,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
It really is,
Yeah.
as much as you guys go through that, and I admire the hell out of it. And you got any other questions?
No, go ahead. Keep running, Joe.
Okay. Well, I think at this point we could probably wrap it up because we're going to have you back. We talked about coming back this sort of post-North Americans show.
All right.
Right? We're
All
still
right.
going to do that, so we'll
Okay.
get your commitment to do that. again, because I have a sneaky suspicion. But okay, I don't want to jinx you.
But also, I want to squat with her. She can squat at that.
I don't know if you want to do that.
No,
You
I
should
do.
see-
Like, I want to. I don't mind being embarrassed.
You would have to give me some give me a little bit of time to
Okay.
put some fat on.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
I mean, please,
Catch her when
please.
she's down. Catch her when she's down. I saw her.
Yeah, I'm
squat.
trying to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I'm not gonna wait for you to get better.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to have a ton more questions to bring your way at that second interview too.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to get a ton of questions because we've had some really fun off-topics
Yeah.
that we talked about. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Letting us in a little bit to who you are as opposed to just this bodybuilder that we all see pictures of and go, holy shit, who is this? You know. So we'll have you back after North Americans, and we wish you the best of luck. And thanks for coming out and hanging out with us here today. And thanks for all of you listening or watching our podcast on YouTube. Shannon's going to be back with us a week or two, probably maybe even 3. We'll give you a chance to eat a little bit and relax.
Go on
and
vacation.
Go on vacation and take care of that husband of yours. A couple weeks after North American, so we can have a chat with her. And please get into questions for Shannon. We covered most of them, I think, that were sent our way. We kind of already knew, and most of the questions we got were, as I'm sure you've dealt with those 100 times over as well. So thank you for answering them again. So anyhow, thanks again. Episode number 3. Number 4 will be back next Tuesday, the 24th. I guess got to do the math.
Yeah, whatever date it is.
Is that is? Yeah, okay, 24th. So thanks again.